Every Christmas for 15 years, 20 chairs filled their table, 20 smiles in the photo. 20 people they called family. And every single year, they forgot to save one for me. Until the year I stopped waiting for an invitation and started building a trap instead. If you've ever been the forgotten sibling, the family ATM, the person who gives everything and gets nothing back, stay with me. Because what happened when my golden child brother demanded to move into my dream cabin? I let him, and that decision destroyed him in ways he never saw coming. Hit that like button, because this revenge is ice cold and absolutely legal. My name is Hazel Morrison, and I need you to understand something. I didn't plan to destroy my brother. I planned to protect myself. He destroyed himself by being exactly who he'd always been. Let me take you back to where it started. December 25th, 2023. I'm 38 years old, sitting alone in my Seattle apartment with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine that cost $11. My phone lights up. Instagram. My mother, Clara, has posted the annual Christmas photo. The image is perfect. She's glowing at the head of a table that looks like it came from a magazine. My brother Daniel and his wife Lydia positioned themselves like royalty beside her. My sister Julie with her husband Alan and their 3 kids. Uncle Ben, Aunt Alicia, cousin Travis. My mother's best friend Joyce, who apparently qualified as family more than I did. 20 people. One long table. The caption, "Blessed beyond measure. Merry Christmas from all of us." I zoomed in. Count the chairs. 20 place settings. 20 wine glasses catching the candlelight. I wasn't one of them. This wasn't new. This was tradition. My tradition of exclusion had been running for 15 years, ever since I'd graduated college and stopped being useful for family photo opportunities. The excuses would arrive like clockwork, usually December 27th when someone's conscience finally kicked in. Mom's text. "Oh, sweetie, didn't you say you were working? We thought you had that big project deadline." I was a financial analyst. We didn't work Christmas. Julie's message. "Hazel, you didn't respond in the group chat about bringing a dish, so we figured you weren't coming." I'd scroll back. Find my 3 messages from December 10th, 15th, and 20th. All asking what time dinner started. All left to read. All buried under 200+ messages between everyone else about recipes and wine pairings and whether to do a white elephant gift exchange. But Lydia's messages were always special. My sister-in-law had perfected the art of weaponized concern. Her voice messages would appear 3 days after Christmas, dripping with false warmth. "Hazel, hon, you know you're always so independent, so self-sufficient. We figured you had your own plans. You've always been more of a lone wolf anyway. We didn't want to interrupt your me time. You understand, right?" As if exclusion was a personality trait I'd chosen instead of a sentence they'd handed me. 15 years of this. 15 years of being the emergency contact, but never the dinner guest. 15 years of being remembered when they needed something. A ride, a babysitter, help moving furniture, and forgotten when it mattered. I'd learned to accept it. To build walls so high their rejection couldn't reach me anymore. But on Christmas 2023, scrolling through that photo of 20 smiling faces that didn't include mine, something finally clicked into place. I was done accepting. 3 days later, I put an offer on a mountain cabin, not just any cabin. This was a 2,400 square foot architectural masterpiece 3 hours outside Seattle, tucked into the Cascade Mountains, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking valleys of old-growth forest, exposed timber beams, a stone fireplace that could heat the entire open-concept space, master suite with a soaking tub positioned to catch the sunrise, chef's kitchen with appliances that cost more than my first car. It was remote. It was expensive, $485,000, which was most of my savings and a carefully structured mortgage. And most importantly, it was mine. But here's what I didn't tell anyone. I didn't buy it in my name. My financial advisor, Kevin Harrison, had been pushing me for months to set up an LLC for asset protection. "You're making $140K a year, Hazel. You have significant savings. You need to protect yourself from potential liability. One car accident, one lawsuit, and someone can come after your personal assets. An LLC creates a legal barrier, so when I bought the cabin, I did it through Pinewood Trust Properties, LLC, a Washington state limited liability company that cost $200 to file and 3 hours of paperwork. The LLC owned the property. I held a long-term lease with myself as the primary tenant. It was smart financial planning, standard practice for high-value real estate investments. I had no idea it would become the trap that caught my brother. I closed on December 20th, spent 4 days furnishing it, making it perfect. Then on Christmas Eve, I posted the photos. Golden hour light flooding through those massive windows, snow-dusted pines stretching into the distance, me in a leather chair by the fire, wine glass in hand, genuinely smiling for the first time in months. Caption: best Christmas gift I could ask for. I turned off my phone and went to bed. When I turned it back on Christmas morning, I had 52 missed calls and 203 text messages. The family group chat had exploded. Mom: Hazel? When did you buy a house? Julie: wait, you can afford this? How? Aunt Alicia: gorgeous property. Had no idea you were doing so well. Daniel: we need to talk. Family meeting. Call me today? I didn't call. Not on Christmas. I sat in my cabin, and let them wonder. On December 26th at 9 p.m., Daniel called. I answered on the 4th ring. Hey, Hazel, that tone. The one that said he was doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. We need to talk about your cabin. Okay, Lydia and I are relocating. Her company's gone fully remote, and honestly, we need a change. City life is burning us out. That place of yours, it's perfect. We're going to stay there for 6 months. Maybe a year. We'll move in on January 5th. Not a question. An announcement, my grip tightened on my phone. You want to move into my cabin? Want? Hazel, we need to. You've got what, 2,400 square feet? You don't need all that space. And let's be honest, you can't actually afford that place long term. Property taxes alone are probably killing you. We'll help with expenses. Family helps family. He paused. Unless you've changed? Unless family doesn't matter to you anymore? There it was. The manipulation. The implication that saying no made me the villain. 3 years ago, this would have worked. I would have said yes immediately, desperate to prove I was still family, still worthy. But 3 years ago, I hadn't yet discovered what my brother really was. Daniel, I don't think... Mom agrees with me, he interrupted. I already talked to her. She thinks it's a great idea. She's actually hurt that you didn't offer already, after everything we've done for you over the years. Everything they'd done for me. Like forget my existence at every major holiday for 15 years. Julie thinks so too, he continued. She mentioned how you're always saying you want to be closer to the family. Well, here's your chance. Lydia and I living there. You'll actually be part of something for once. The words hit like a physical blow. Part of something for once. As if my absence had been my choice. When did you want to move in? I heard myself ask. Silence. He'd expected a fight. Wait, really? You're okay with this? Every instinct screamed to say no, to tell him to find his own place, to stop being the family doormat. But then I thought about something else. Something I'd been carrying for 2 years. Yeah, I said quietly. Family helps family. January 5th works. When I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder I'd been maintaining since September 2021. The folder was titled Records. Let me tell you what was in. It's September 15th, 2021. 2:47 a.m. Daniel called me, voice shaking with panic. He was in financial trouble. A business investment had collapsed. Renovations on his house had run over budget. The bank wouldn't extend his credit. He needed $40,000 within 48 hours or he'd lose everything. I'll pay you back in 6 months, he'd promised. 6 months maximum with interest. I swear, Hazel, you know I'm good for it. Please, I'm begging you. I'd made good money, $140K as a senior financial analyst. I had savings, and more than that, I had hope. I hoped that helping him would finally make me matter. Finally, make me family. I transferred $40,000 on September 15th, 2021 to March 2022. Hazel, I'm so sorry. The business is still recovering. Give me 3 more months. June 2022. You know how the economy is. 2 more months, I promise. September 2022. Look, I'm working on it. Stop pressuring me. You're making this really awkward. December 2022. When I gently mentioned it at a rare family dinner I'd actually been invited to. He'd gotten angry. Jesus Christ, Hazel. I said I'm working on it. What? You don't trust your own brother? You're really going to be that person who keeps score with family? That's petty. That's incredibly petty. So I stopped asking, but I didn't stop documenting. Screenshots of every text, bank records, emails where he promised repayment. Then, in January 2023, I learned something that changed everything. I was at a bar with cousin Travis. He'd had a few drinks, and his tongue got loose. Man, Daniel really played that workshop sale perfectly, he said, shaking his head. 75 grand for that old building in this market? Your brother's got the golden touch. I went completely still. What workshop? Travis looked confused. Your dad's old workshop. The one on Maple Street. Daniel sold it last summer. You didn't know? The world tilted. My father's workshop. The 200 square foot building where Dad had spent 33 years building custom furniture. Where he taught Daniel and me how to read wood grain, how to use a lathe, how to stand with the patience of a saint. The building we'd stood in front of after Dad's funeral in 2020, both of us crying, holding hands. We never sell this, Daniel had said. This is Dad's legacy. We keep this in the family forever. Promise me, Hazel. I promise, I'd whispered. He sold it for $75,000 in July 2022, while owing me $40,000. I went home that night and pulled public property records. It was all there. The sale was finalized July 18th, 2022. Buyer was a development company. They'd torn down the workshop 3 months later to build condos. Dad's legacy, gone, sold, demolished. Pulled up a video from a family dinner in August 2022. Someone had asked Daniel about the workshop, to let it go, he'd said, looking somber, playing the grieving son perfectly. Property taxes were crushing me. I couldn't afford to maintain it. Trust me, it broke my heart. But I had no choice. He'd looked directly at me when he said it, right at me, and lied to my face. That night, I opened a new document and started compiling everything. Here's what I didn't know then. Dad's will had put the workshop in a family trust with both Daniel and me as equal beneficiaries. Daniel was named trustee, which meant he managed it, but the trust documents explicitly stated that selling the property required written consent from all beneficiaries. He'd sold it without telling me. Without asking me, without giving me a cent, he'd violated the trust, pocketed $75,000 while owing me $40,000, and lied about all of it. For 18 months, I'd been building my case. Documents, evidence, timelines, screenshots, bank records. I'd been protecting myself, gathering proof, preparing for the day I might need it. I just hadn't known when that day would come. And then Daniel demanded to move into my cabin. January 5th, Daniel and Lydia arrived with a U-Haul packed for a year-long stay. Lydia stepped out wearing designer sunglasses and an expression that said she was doing me an enormous favor. Hazel, this place is cute. Very rustic. We'll definitely need to make some updates, but the bones are good. Daniel was already unloading boxes, large boxes, heavy boxes, his entire home office. Before they'd even finished unloading the truck, I pulled out the document my real estate attorney, Marcus Patterson, had prepared. Hey, I need you both to sign this really quick, I said casually. It's just a standard occupancy agreement. The property's owned by a trust, so they require all residents to sign acknowledging the terms. Daniel barely glanced at it. What trust? Pinewood Trust Properties. It's a real estate investment LLC. I have a long-term lease with them, but they require documentation for any additional occupants. Standard landlord stuff. Just say you acknowledge the trust owns the property and agree to the occupancy terms. The document was 3 pages. It clearly stated that Pinewood Trust Properties LLC was the legal owner. That occupancy was granted at the sole discretion of the trust. That the trust could terminate any occupancy arrangement with 7 days written notice for any reason or no reason at all. Lydia signed without reading. She was already measuring windows for curtains. Daniel signed with a flourish. His signature was bold, confident, careless. That signature was going to cost him everything. For 2 months, I watched them take over my sanctuary. And I documented everything. Lydia rearranged all my furniture, brought in throw pillows and scented candles and a massive artificial plant. She complained about my cold aesthetic, my inadequate lighting, my boring color palette. Daniel converted my study, the room where I'd planned to finally write a novel, into his office. He had video calls that lasted hours, his voice booming through the cabin. He left coffee mugs everywhere. He reorganized my bookshelves to make room for his business books. They asked about bills exactly once. "Hey, what do we owe for utilities?" Daniel asked in mid-February. "Nothing. It's all handled through the trust's management company. Part of my lease structure." He nodded and went back to his laptop. Never asked another question. Never wondered how his supposedly struggling little sister could afford a $500,000 property. They simply accepted that they deserved it. I kept records. Photos of the changes they made without permission, recordings of Lydia criticizing my home, timestamps of Daniel's loud video calls in what was supposed to be shared space. I was building evidence. Documentation of their behavior, proof that they'd turned my home into their personal property with zero regard for me. By early March, they started planning renovations. "That wall between the kitchen and living room has to come down," Daniel announced one night over dinner that I'd cooked for all three of us. "Open concept would be so much better. I've already called a contractor for an estimate." "And we're repainting everything," Lydia added. "These grays and whites are depressing. We're thinking burnt orange in the living room, sage green in the bedrooms." "You can't just," I started. "Hazel, don't be difficult," Daniel interrupted. "These are improvements. We're actually increasing your property value. You should be thanking us." "We're doing you a favor," Lydia agreed. "When you eventually sell this place, these updates will pay off. You'll see." That night I made a phone call. "Mr. Patterson, it's time." Marcus Patterson was the attorney who'd helped me set up the LLC. Sharp, efficient, expensive. "You're certain?" he asked. "Once we serve notice, there's no taking it back. They will be angry, potentially hostile." I looked around my cabin, at the throw pillows I hated, at my study I couldn't access, at the home that hadn't felt like mine in 2 months. "I'm certain," I said. "And I'm ready to file the other suit too. Everything I sent you last week, the loan documentation, the workshop sale records, all of it. That's a separate civil case. Are you sure you want to pursue both simultaneously?" "He stole from me, Mr. Patterson. He violated a family trust, pocketed $75,000 that was partially mine, never repaid his $40,000 debt, and then demanded to live in my home rent-free." "Yes, I'm sure. I'll have the eviction notice prepared by tomorrow. The civil suit will take another few days to file properly." On March 14th, a courier arrived with a certified letter addressed to Daniel Morrison and Lydia Morrison. I was in my bedroom when I heard the knock. Heard Daniel answer. Heard the courier ask for a signature, then silence. Then, "What the fuck is this?" I walked slowly to the living room. Daniel stood in the center of the room, face crimson, hands shaking as he gripped the letter. Lydia read over his shoulder, her expression cycling from confusion to disbelief to rage. "This says we have 7 days to vacate," she said, voice climbing. "It says the property owner is terminating our occupancy agreement effective immediately." "Hazel, what is this?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, calm. "It's a notice of termination from Guizhou," Daniel demanded. "This is your cabin. You bought this place. We saw the posts." "Did I say I bought it?" I asked quietly. "I said it was the best Christmas gift I could ask for. A favorable long-term lease from a family trust is a pretty amazing gift, don't you think?" The silence was exquisite. "Check the occupancy agreement you both signed," I continued. "Page 2, Section 3. The trust reserves the right to terminate any occupancy arrangement with 7 days' notice." "You acknowledge that in writing." "You set us up!" Lydia shrieked. "This was planned." "You manipulated us!" "I offered you a place to stay when you demanded one. You signed a legal document. The trust has decided to terminate the arrangement. You have 7 days. Daniel took a step toward me. For a moment, I thought he might actually grab me. But I didn't move. Didn't flinch. "Where the hell are we supposed to go?" he said, voice low, dangerous. "Where were you planning to go before you announced you were moving in here?" I asked. "You must have had a backup plan." He didn't answer, because there had been no plan. "Just entitlement. This is insane," Lydia said. "We're calling a lawyer." "You should," I agreed. "Have them review the document you signed. It's airtight. For 3 days we existed in hostile silence. They made angry phone calls, searched desperately for attorneys, scrambled to find a place to go. The document they'd signed was perfectly legal. They had no case. On March 17th, I went to Marcus Patterson's office with everything I'd compiled over 2 years. Bank records showing the $40,000 loan, never repaid. Property records showing Dad's workshop sale for $75,000, the family trust documents, proving Daniel needed my consent to sell. Documentation of his lies about why he sold it, email and text, evidence of his promises to repay me, calculated interest on the loan. $8,750 over 30 months. My legal share of the workshop proceeds. $37,500, 50% of $75,000. Total amount owed, $86,250. This is extremely thorough, Marcus said, reviewing every page. We can file for breach of contract, conversion of trust assets, and fraudulent misrepresentation. Do you want to settle or go to trial? Trial, I said without hesitation. I wanted judgment. I want it on public record. I want him to admit in court that he stole from me. That will cost you more in legal fees than you'll recover. I don't care. This isn't about money anymore. This is about the truth. Daniel and Lydia moved out on March 21st. They loaded their U-Haul in bitter silence, didn't say goodbye, didn't even look at me. As their taillights disappeared down the mountain road, I stood in my doorway and breathed deeply for the first time in months. Then I went inside, poured a glass of wine, and sat by the fire in my cabin that was finally completely mine again. On March 23rd, I filed a civil lawsuit against Daniel Allen Morrison. Claims: breach of contract, $40,000 loan, conversion of trust property, $37,500, fraudulent misrepresentation. Total amount sought, $86,250 plus interest, plus legal fees. The lawsuit became public record that afternoon. My phone started ringing at 4:52 p.m. My mother called first, voice shaking with fury. Hazel Christine Morrison, what have you done? I filed a lawsuit to recover money your son stole from me. Stole? He's your brother! Family doesn't sue with each other. Family doesn't steal $40,000 and sell Dad's workshop without permission either, Mom. But here we are. You kicked him out of your home. You humiliated him, and now you're trying to destroy him financially. I didn't kick him out. The property owner terminated his occupancy, and I'm not trying to destroy him. I'm trying to get back what he stole. This is about money? You're tearing this family apart over money? Something cracked in my chest. Not broke, cracked, Mom, I said quietly. Where was I last Christmas? Silence. Where was Christmas before that? And the one before that? Where was I on Thanksgiving? Easter? Your birthday? Hazel, that's not... How many times in the last 15 years have you invited me to a family dinner? How many times have you called just to see how I was? That's not fair. You posted a photo with 20 people and called it all of us. I wasn't there. I haven't been there in 15 years. So please don't lecture me about tearing the family apart. There was no family to tear. Not for me. I hung up. Julie called next, sobbing. Hazel, please. This is too far. Suing Daniel? That's so extreme. He made mistakes, but this is cruel. He stole from me, Julie. He violated Dad's trust and pocketed money that was partially mine. He lied about all of it, for years, but he's family. Then where was I every Christmas? I asked. If I'm family, where was my chair? Silence. That's what I thought, I said, and ended the call. Uncle Ben sent a text. Very disappointed in you. Hazel, this isn't who you are. Aunt Alicia sent a long message about forgiveness, and Jesus and reconciliation. My mother's friend Joyce, who I barely knew, sent me a message calling me a vindictive bitch who weaponizes family, relationships. Within 24 hours, my mother, Julie, Aunt Alicia, and Uncle Ben had all blocked me on social media. The only person who reached out with support was Cousin Travis. His text, about fucking time. He's had this coming for years. Get your money, cuz, I replied. Thanks. That actually means a lot. On March 26th, I posted one final photo, my living room, restored to exactly how I wanted it. My furniture is back in place, sunlight streaming through clean windows. The mountains stretch endlessly in the distance. Caption, peace looks good on me. The lawsuit is ongoing. Marcus says we have an excellent case. Daniel's attorney has already tried to negotiate twice, first offering $25,000, then $40,000. I refused both. We're going to trial, I told Marcus. I want a judgment on record. You understand you'll spend more on legal fees than you'll recover? I understand that some things matter more than money. I want the truth documented. I want a judge to say, officially, that he stole from me, that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't vindictive, that I was wronged. The trial is scheduled for September 2024. My family calls me heartless, now cold, calculating, cruel, maybe. They're right, but I didn't start this way. I used to be warm, open, hopeful. I used to believe that if I just gave enough, loved enough, tried enough, they'd finally see me, finally include me, finally treat me like I mattered. But you can only knock on a locked door so many times before you realize no one's planning to let you in. And once you accept that, truly accept that you've been standing in the cold, while everyone else was warm inside, together, something shifts. You stop knocking. You stop hoping. You stop needing them. And you learn that the cold isn't something to fear. It's something that makes you stronger. I sit in my cabin now, and for the first time in 15 years, I feel genuinely at peace. No resentful brother rearranging my space. No entitled sister-in-law criticizing my choices. No family members who only remember I exist when they need something. Just me. The fire, the mountains, the silence I chose instead of the silence they forced on me. Sometimes I scroll back through those old Christmas photos. I zoom in on the table, count the chairs, look at the spaces where one more could have fit. I think about alternate timelines where they'd included me, where I felt wanted, where I never had to become the villain in their story. But those timelines don't exist. This one does. And in this timeline, I learned something invaluable. You can't hurt someone who stops needing you. They took away my seat at their table for 15 years, so I built my own table, in my own house, on my own mountain, with my own money that I earned and saved and protected, and I didn't leave a single seat for them. Daniel will stand in a courtroom this September and answer for what he did. A judge will decide if he owes me $86,250. The judgment will become public record, permanent, undeniable. But honestly, even if I lose, I've already won, because I'm not the forgotten one anymore. I'm not the family ATM. I'm not the placeholder sibling they remember only when convenient. I'm the one who stopped accepting crumbs and built herself a feast. I didn't tear my family apart. I just stopped pretending we were whole when I'd never been part of it in the first place, and now I'm free. If this story hits home, if you've ever been the forgotten one, the family scapegoat, the person who finally said enough, drop a comment. Tell me your story. You're not alone, and if you want more stories of people who stopped begging for a seat at the table and built their own empire instead, subscribe and hit that bell, because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so good they realize they never deserved to be part of it. Thanks for listening. And remember, you don't owe loyalty to people who never showed you any.